Welcome back to the channel, everyone. It's I, the Reluctant Gringo, back again with another video, and today we're going to talk about Napoleon. That's right, I told you I was going to give you my review. I went and saw it. I sat through the 3.5 hours that was this movie. I'm going to give you the positives, I'm going to give you the negatives, I'm going to let you know exactly what I think at the end and whether you should go see this movie. I'm a big Joaquin Phoenix fan. I'm a big Ridley Scott fan, so I was really excited, had high expectations. Of course, as well, you know that I'm a history nerd, and I have studied Napoleon. I've made Napoleon sort of like a hobby of mine in the past, and so I know a lot about his life. I know a lot about his military career, about his personal career, his political career, his life, his death, his family, all that. I have to approach the movie the way that I have to approach the movie as myself. Now, if you're someone who has no knowledge of Napoleon or really has a tacit understanding of Napoleon or a very loose understanding, then you're going to view this movie in a very different way than I did. And you're going to view this movie in more of a sense of a performance. I went in looking at it like an epic biography, that I was going to see something of a historical context, which in a sense I did, but in a sense I didn't. But I'm going to get into that. But first, like I said, let's always start with the positives. Visually, Ridley Scott knows how to shoot a movie. Let's not lie and kid each other. The man knows how to put a camera somewhere and say, give me the best shot I can get. He knows how to make it look good. Visually, it is stunning. Stunning. Especially those battle scenes. And if I would make one suggestion, if you do go see the movie in theaters, see it in IMAX, because those battle scenes are unbelievable with that big screen and that surround sound, that digital sound. So again, visually stunning. The costuming, perfect. Whoever did the costuming on this film, whoever did the set design and all that, I know they shot on location in a lot of places, but still a lot of set design. Whoever did those, they deserve the awards. More than Oppenheimer, more than any other, more than Barbie, more than anything else out there. They deserve the awards, because whoever did these absolutely killed it. They did their research and they got every detail right. So impressive. Practical and special effects. I think they use a lot of practical effects. Again, top notch. These battle scenes are some of the greatest battle scenes of that kind of era that I've ever seen put on film. The ships in the harbor, the naval battles, the battles in Austerlitz, the battles in Waterloo, the battles in Egypt, the battles in Russia, Moscow, all that. Incredible. Choreographed perfectly, very, very accurate to what you're going to see, what you would normally see if you were actually there at these battles. Hard to watch at times because they are so bloody, because that's the way things were back then. You get hit with a cannonball, shit happens. You know what I'm saying? For that sense, and then again, like I said, the cinematography, top notch, absolutely top notch. If I was a member of the Academy, that would be the people that's getting my vote for the award for this film. It just absolutely incredible. But that's not the whole movie. That's about a third of the movie, those battles, the costuming and whatnot. Now, one thing that I heard going into this movie, and I heard a few different things, and I tried to keep away from spoilers and reviews and things like that. But one thing I heard is that Vanessa Kirby should be winning the Oscar for her portrayal of Josephine, Napoleon's wife. Said she was incredible, it was amazing, it was this, it was that, she's the best in the film. And I guess I didn't see that. She's good, she's real good. Is she better than Emily Blunt in Oppenheimer? No. Emily Blunt still put in a better performance in Oppenheimer than Vanessa Kirby did in Napoleon, hands down. So it was good. It wasn't spectacular. So I didn't see it. So could she be nominated? Sure. She'll be nominated, and she deserves to be nominated, but she's a runner-up at best. Emily Blunt, to me, still deserves that award. Now, since we're talking about Vanessa Kirby and her role in Josephine, I think with her portrayal, we got closer to the real life persona than more of a fictional version. I definitely think there was a lot of more research put into Josephine. Now Josephine was a whore. She cheated on Napoleon left, right. She had kids before Napoleon, a husband before Napoleon. When she was jailed, they told her, hey, if you get pregnant, then we won't execute you. And this is before the French Revolution, before Napoleon, during the Reign of Terror, Robespierre. So she was screwing everybody she could to get pregnant. So she was a whore. The minute Napoleon left to go to Egypt, she cheated on him. I mean, she was just, that's who she was. She was not, though. The movie portrayed her as this dominant figure over Napoleon. Now, did she have a lot of sway emotionally over Napoleon in real life? Sure. Does his letters to her bear that out, sure, but she wasn't dominant the way they portrayed her. She was definitely the dominant figure of the movie. She was always terrified of being divorced because that would just ruin her life, her reputation, all that. She never ever mentioned the word divorce in her life, but here she seems to be more open to it. But the idea that Napoleon was her simp, that's really one I have a little bit of a problem with. Napoleon was the biggest ego, and I'm going to say this a bunch of times. There are people in this world, in this life, in this history of us as humans that have really reached that mountaintop, that Mount Rushmore of egos, and Napoleon's one of them. He wasn't anybody's simp. If his wife was cheating on him, and then he was banging some other broad somewhere else, believe me, or he was doing something about it. Yes, he loved her madly. I mean, that might have been one of his biggest flaws, but he loved her madly, but he was not immobilized emotionally because of her. Josephine, a real close, I gotta give that to her, real close depiction of who Josephine really was, but not 100% accurate, okay? I think just before we get into the rest of that, if you're going into this movie, I guess I would say, if you're going into this movie, like I said, like I was expecting historical accuracy, then you're gonna be disappointed. Just don't do that, all right? It's not a documentary. It is definitely a lot of made up stuff. So some of the negatives, Joaquin Phoenix, I hate to say it, his portrayal of Napoleon was frustrating. It was sometimes baffling to me. I mean, it was often so understated and stoic as to border on almost robotic. Like I said, he's one of the greatest egos in the history of egos. But Phoenix played him at times that made me think, does Ridley Scott think Napoleon was autistic? I was like, am I watching Dustin Hoffman's Rain Man try to play Napoleon? And really, I said, this isn't Napoleon. He wasn't autistic. Napoleon was one of the most strategic, calculating, ruthless, vicious, narcissistic, and bold people to ever walk the face of this earth. That's why he's put in the same breath as Hitler, as the Antichrist. I mean, if you think about it, Julius Caesar, Hannibal, Alexander, and we're going to get into all those later. He was not some mumbling, fumbling doofus. And really, I was just baffled that that's the direction that Phoenix decided to go. He was never indecisive. He was not unsure of himself. He was not a person described or as afflicted with bouts of wild mood swings. So not only did Phoenix at times play him as autistic, and it was really depending, and that's the thing about Phoenix's portrayal. It goes from one extreme to another. So at times you're watching Phoenix play Napoleon, you're like playing him as an autistic character. But then the next scene, he's wildly bipolar, swinging from total sadness and depression to absolute just maniacal emotional distress. And that made the film feel that way. And I think that's the thing about this film, is that Joaquin Phoenix's portrayal drags that film down. Like I said, in one moment, Napoleon is very calm, confident. He's the general on the battlefield, wiping out tens of thousands of enemy soldiers. The next, he's an accidental leader who stumbles upon his role as king. And again, there's so much that could be further from the truth. Napoleon became the Emperor of France, and a man mentioned in the same breath as, like I said, Hannibal and Alexander the Great and Julius Caesar, because he made everything around him happen. Nothing was accidental. Like this movie portrays, like it's like almost like he tripped into the crowd. It's really amazing to me, some of the liberties they took. I can understand taking liberties here and there for the sake of making a dramatic movie and all that, but I think when you're going to bastardize the character that way, don't even call it Napoleon, just call it some French general. That's what you're gonna call it. And maybe it was the editing. Maybe there's so much left on the cutting room floor that this is the film that we got. There's so much left up in the air, so many jumps in time without proper context. The film jerks between the political intrigue story to the battles Napoleon's fighting to the relationship Napoleon had with Josephine, that you feel like there are 3 movies of equal length cut down to the bare bones in order to keep it to just the 3.5 hours. Because of this lack of context, the movie lacks explanation, especially when it comes to the political and social storyline. It gives the bare minimum, and the audience is left to fill in the rest. The battles, some of the most important in the time that Napoleon lived, some of the most important battles in the history of the world, let's face it, are not given their proper due place in history. It's sort of like, why does Napoleon attack the Austrians at the Battle of Austerlitz? Because they don't like each other. Never in this film is the maniacal need for domination and expansion evident with this character of Napoleon. And that's probably his most defining trait as a leader. Only at the end do we get a sense of all of Europe is against him because they're afraid of him. The conflicts themselves lack moral guidelines. You know, who's right? Who's wrong? Who are the bad guys? Who are the good guys? Why are these fights happening in the first place? Not sure, but they look cool. And that's the thing. You don't know. It's like, are you supposed to be rooting for Napoleon? Are you supposed to be like, oh, he's doing a horrible thing? You're not quite sure. You're not given that kind of context, you know? Maybe the film does that on purpose because they want you to decide, but let's face it, The guy killed over 3 million people in like a decade. He was a pretty bad guy. I think one of the most disappointing parts of Phoenix's portrayal is that rarely does he let Napoleon's ego out to be on full display. Like I said, I think going back to that whole, did they portray Napoleon as the person he is? With the exception of the crowning as emperor, where he kind of took the crown himself and said to the Pope, no, I'll do it, and put it on his own head, which took a lot of nuts back in the time. Or during some of the battles where victory was already in his mind because he had a foregone conclusion. He knew he had superior tactical advantage. There's little ego of Napoleon in this film. At best, he's flippant with others, not domineering. And again, that's not Napoleon. Napoleon's ego was his center trait. And then the indecisiveness of the film goes back to Joachim's character. He's portrayed sometimes as a tragic hero instead of one of history's greatest threats to the Western world. I've read a dozen or so books on Napoleon. I never once saw him as a tragic hero. But Phoenix's turn never gets him to that mountaintop. Like I said, not even close. Never gets him to that mountaintop. You know, when I said earlier he seemed accidental, the film would have us believe that he's more lucky than cunning, and nothing could be further from the truth, like I said. I think to understand this, you have to understand what Ridley Scott and Apple Studios did to Napoleon, and they did to him what most modern movies do to great men in history. They tear them down. I think that was the purpose of this film. You should look no further than the scenes of intimacy, which there were a few, between Josephine and Napoleon, and Phoenix is wildly screwing her, like just wildly, passionately screwing her, and all the while she's just looking into the camera with this look of absolute sort of disgust, disdain, boredom, nonplus, whatever it is, but it's totally demeaning to the character of Napoleon as a man. And really, that's the key. Those scenes really said, okay, that's what we're doing here. We're here to tear down Napoleon. We're here to tear down the alpha male, all that. So yes, you get the message. It's an Apple film. You're going to get the message. If you go into an Apple film not expecting the message, I don't know what to tell you. You haven't been paying attention. Napoleon in this film, he's an inadequate man, sexually, physically, emotionally. Ridley Scott and Apple decided to say, a man who conquered the entire known Western world, who put the fear of God into kings and governments of peoples of Europe, who reshaped the political structure and power dynamic of the entire civilized world, is reduced to a man unable to bring his wife to an orgasm, make decisions on his own without tacit reassurance from subordinates, and when he does make a decision on his own, he's out of touch and he's spectacularly wrong. Now, Napoleon did do horrible things and make horrible mistakes. Those are well known. St. Petersburg, Waterloo being two of his biggest, but he made his successes as well by himself. Is Napoleon a great movie? No. Is it a good movie? Yes and no. If you're looking for a great film about Napoleon that gives you a real sense of who the man was and what the man did in the context of the time that he did it, then this is not the film for you. If you're looking for a period drama with spectacular battles, a toxic love story, and just a fingertips hold on reality, and no brain power necessary to understand why things happen the way that they do, you might just enjoy this movie. Is it Scott's best? Not by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not sure it even makes top 10. Will it be nominated? Yes, it will be, because it contains the message of the modern day. And that may be the ultimate problem with a film like this. If you're going to tackle a historical subject, especially one such as this, you have to be all in on a history. Otherwise, you're merely making a $200 million piece of fan fiction. So my suggestion to you is this. If you want to see Napoleon in theaters, go in with no expectations of being given an accurate depiction of who Napoleon Bonaparte really was and why he did what he did. They'll help you swallow this narrative a little more easily and not leave you disappointed when the end credits roll. From south of the border, I'm still your reluctant gringo. If you like this video, please subscribe and please hit that like button, leave me a comment in the section below. I really appreciate all you guys. But other than that, I'll see you later on this week. Salut and a huevo.